Hey booktube! Welcome back to my channel. My name is the Book Mage and this is a very casual, very unplanned video. I have literally just got back in from the shops and I've realised for like the first time in forever I actually have like a proper kind of set TBR and I'm not just mood reading. Like I have a lot that I want to read specifically this month, so I'm doing a February TBR. I think it's been literally years. But I kind of miss doing TBRs, but I'm too much of a mood reader, so I am genuinely just sat in bed, like in my unmade bed. I'm under the duvet. This is not the best setup, so this is very casual and unplanned, and my lighting it's doing something, so we're just gonna power through. So after only reading 2 books in January, I want to read, I want to say a lot of books, but actually it's more like a decent number of books with a very high page count. The first book on my February TBR, which I have already started, is Northern Wrath by Tilda Coldholt. This was the Broken Binding pick for January 2024, and I decided to pick this up in paperback because I couldn't wait for it to be delivered. Like, I needed to start it immediately. I have just been really craving like Norse-inspired fantasy and Norse myth, and something, I don't know why, that's just the mood I'm in. I think it's because it's like winter, I guess. I mean, like in the summer sometimes I do crave like Greek mythology and Greek myth-inspired fantasy, but right now I really want some like Viking style fantasy or Norse fantasy. That's what I'm into. So this is an adult Norse inspired fantasy, and on the back it says, "The bond between men and the gods is weakening. A dead man walks between the worlds and foresees Odin's doom. The only survivor of a slaughter unleashes a monster from fiery Muspelheim. Long hidden among mortals, a giantess sighs and takes up her magics once again. A chief's son must overcome war and treason to become the leader his people need. The final battle is coming." So this is a multi-perspective fantasy, and I am actually about 200 pages in at this point. And you're following the perspective of multiple characters, mostly all from this one village called Ash Hill, which at the start is beginning to be encroached upon by southern Christian invaders. The Norse myths exist, the Norse gods exist, like all of that is real and like very like fantastical and in here, so I'm really enjoying that at the moment. But yeah, this is definitely one that I'm reading in February because like, as if I'm gonna DNF it, like it's really good so far. So definitely one that I'll be finishing this month. Kind of in the same vein, one that I kind of want to throw in here, maybe just as like, I guess kind of like a bit of light reading, like supplementary reading, just kind of in the same vein, and that is Tales of Norse Mythology, and this is by Helen Guerber. So first off, this is a lovely edition. You will see this in my next book haul. So I have read a good number of the Norse myths before, or at least like certain versions of them, and I've read parts of both of the Eddas, but honestly not for a long time. Like not since I was like in education. It might be nice to sort of like dip in and out of this every now and again. Like I'm not going to read something and then like go looking it up, but I feel like I might want to at some point this month maybe just have like a little look through this. While I don't know if I will definitely read the entire thing in February, if I get hooked I might just end up doing that. I'm probably most interested in like the myths and stories and things that I haven't read before or haven't studied before, so it might be that I kind of like dip in and out and like pick the things that I'm most interested in reading at that point. But I thought I would put this on my TBR because I've been sat staring at it and I keep wanting to pick it up, and the only reason I'm not is because I tend to pick up one book and then read that one book from start to finish. But I feel like because this is non-fiction, I can just like dip in and out of it and stop and start. Like I don't see why I couldn't do that. That's what I'm gonna do. There are some releases this month that I really want to get to. I'm not gonna do these exactly in order because the main one that I want to get to is on the 8th of February. The Trials of Empire by Richard Swan is releasing, and this is the 3rd book in the Empire of the Wolf series, and this is my #1 most anticipated, most hyped book of this year. I am dying to read it. I read the 2nd book in this series late last year. I think it was like my second to last. It was like my penultimate book of the year, and it was a 5-star. I loved it. This is now one of my favourite series, and I cannot believe it's ending. Like I only just gave the last book a 5-star in December. I haven't had enough time to prepare for the ending. I haven't had enough time to like emotionally like get ready for it. I live and die by this book right now. Like when it comes out, what day even is the 8th? Like I hope my copy gets delivered on the 8th. Like everything else I'm reading has to be finished before the 8th so that I can start it immediately. Fuck my entire life. The 8th is a Thursday and I have a board meeting, so I can't book the day off work. But mark my words, I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna clock out early, and I'm just gonna read. Maybe I'll take Friday off. My biggest priority this month is this book. the series kind of starts following out, it kind of starts off like a bit like a fantasy murder mystery. You're following a guy named Von Volt, who is a justice, which is kind of like a traveling lawman who has these specific magical powers that basically help him enforce the law, like forcing people to tell the truth or speaking with the dead, that kind of thing. It's very cool. It's done in a really interesting way. The magic system in this book is just, it's fascinating, and I really like it. He's joined by a couple other people on his journey, and it ends up being kind of like a fantasy murder mystery, but by book 2 it branches out so much bigger than that. Like, the scope is getting massive at this point, and I know I'm going to be devastated. I've already been through the emotional ringer with book 2, so like book 3, I feel it coming from my soul. I really do. So this is my absolute biggest priority for the month, and I will drop literally everything else for this book. So anything else that I have to push back so I can prioritize this, that is going to happen. But yeah, very hyped for this one. Okay, so depending on when I sort of finish these and like how long I have, I anticipate I'm going to finish these and go straight into the Trials of Empire, but after that I think I'm going to be picking up my book club read. So a couple of friends and I have unofficially kind of started a thing we are calling Goth Girl Book Club. I will give you guesses as to why we call it Goth Girl Book Club. And this month the girls have chosen Feybound by Sarah L. Arifi as the book club pick. So this one I think is an adult fantasy. And I know it follows two elven sisters who for some reason are like cast out of their society, and they end up falling in with like the Fae, like courtly Fae, which is interesting to me because I'm like, sometimes elves and Fae are kind of like one and the same thing, so I'd be interested to see, and like, do humans exist in this world? I don't know. It's just shy of 400 pages, so that's not too bad. This is the one book this month that is, well, it's the one that I didn't pick for myself, isn't it? So this is the one that worries me about being slumpy. I'm hoping either this will be a surprise hit with me, or I'm just gonna have to power through. For Goth Girl Book Club, I will do it. So the book that I'm going to put on this TBR as like an honorary pick, and it's only going to be if I have enough time to fit an extra book in, then I am also going to be throwing in The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. Now, I do not have this yet because this comes out on the 6th of February, but there was no way I could start it on the 6th and then start Trials of Empire on the 8th. There's no way. It's not going to happen. So this one's getting pushed back, but I am very excited for this release. It's something about... oh my god, let me try and remember. I know it's kind of like again, this is like a fantasy murder mystery kind of thing. I think it's kind of like going full into like the Sherlock Holmes kind of vibes. So it's very like fantasy detective story, which I'm anticipating I'll really like. If I remember correctly, it's something to do with, I think a person is killed when like a tree sort of bursts out of their body, like grows out of their body, and that is like the weird death, like a method of murder, I guess. I don't know if it's actually murder, I'm assuming it is, but then these two, I guess like fantasy investigators are called in to look into like this weird mysterious death and figure out what is going on. I'm pretty sure that is the synopsis, or like vague little bits of it. I like to try and forget and like go into these books as blind as possible, so if the vibe of this book is anything like the cover, I think this is one that I can really enjoy. I'm putting it on this TBR tentatively because if I only have like a couple of days before the end of February, I might have to skip it. I think this is like 400-ish, maybe like 400 something pages. I don't think it's massive, but I'm just gonna kind of like play it by ear and like see how I'm feeling towards the end of the month. If I have at least a week to read this one, then it's definitely one that I'm gonna pick up because I would love to get to it soon. If I don't get to read it this month, it'll get pushed into the next month, but like I would like to ideally read it as soon as possible. So if I'm quick with these, then maybe I can get to it. Okay, and the last book that I'm putting on this TBR is one that I'm going to start very late into February, so technically I think I'm going to be reading most of it in March, but I'm putting it on this TBR anyway, because there's no way I'm having a March TBR if I'm reading a massive book. So I feel like maybe it's a bit obvious what it is. So on the 29th of February, on the Bisext, I will be starting Empire of the Damned by J. Kristoff. This is the sequel to Empire of the Vampire. Look, it's either going to be great or it's going to be awful, but I am going to subject myself to it. I am going to read it. I'm going to binge my way through it, like on day one. I've taken the day off work. I've taken the next day off work. I'm going to do nothing but sit and read this book, and I will be letting you know exactly how I feel about it. Mainly because it's the 29th, and I've sort of now made this like an unofficial tradition where every 4 years when we get a leap year, like I get a whole extra day in the year. and it is to be used for reading and reading only. That is the tradition. Once every 4 years, the universe gives me a whole extra 24 hours to read, and that's what I do. And this year I'm going to be using it to read Empire of the Damned. Yeah, this is J. Kristoff's adult, gothic, grimdark, vampire, high fantasy story. All buzzwords which made me think that the first book would be my favourite book ever. It was not. I would describe it as mid, if I'm totally honest. I would describe it as painfully mid. But it had the potential to be my favourite book ever. So I'm wondering if, like, I don't know, maybe book 2? I'm definitely going to give it a go. Like, there was enough that I enjoyed about book 1 to want to go on to book 2, but really, I mean, it could go one way or the other. We'll see. So I will be starting this one, I'm hoping on release day. I've pre-ordered so many copies of this book from so many different people. Like, there's different special editions. I think I pre-ordered like a regular edition. One of these copies better get to me on the 29th. Early is fine, but like, if I'm sat there on the 29th and this book is just like stuck in the post, once again, I'm gonna riot. That is gonna be the last book that I read in February, and it's like 700 pages, I think. So I'm not going to finish it in February. I do not think I can read a 700-page book in a day, especially if I'm vlogging it. It's just not going to happen. And honestly, it could arrive at like 9 PM on the Thursday for all I know. So if that happens, I might end up throwing a bunch of other novellas into February's reading on the 29th, or like something short to read up until Empire of the Damned arrives. Depending on how that goes, I might end up with some additional books chucked into the wrap-up at the end of the month. So these, plus the other 3 books. This is my February TBR. I would also really like to do another like challenge video, but like it can't fit in this month. Like, nothing else can fit in this month. I'm really like stacked up as it is, because some of these books are just chunky. Like, this is chunky. All the new releases are pretty chunky. So I just wish I didn't have a job. I wish I could just like sit and read, you know? Like, if this were my job, I would be so happy. Alas, I must work to afford books. So definitely wish me luck with this TBR. So if you watch this whole thing, there's no like axe emoji or like anything, or no like helmet emoji, but like maybe they leave me a shield emoji, because that is the closest I can get to something kind of like Norse inspired. I'm having a bit of like a Norse themed fantasy kick at the moment, so leave me a little shield and tell me what book you guys are reading right now, or if there is anything big on your like February TBR. Is there anything releasing this month, like any of the books that I'm reading or anything else? So let me know what you're hyped for. Otherwise, that is it from me. I'm gonna go and eat vegan cat-shaped cherry gummies, and I'm gonna read my book. Honestly, a good evening. So that's been it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye!